Hello to the 5th episode of XP for Heal. And as I quoted last time in my rambly epic story, I would like to talk about DnD and just my knowledge beforehand of playing it, now playing it, and with, now I've had 6 or 7 sessions of playing D&D as a player. Just my thoughts, my feelings, and even my experience in delving into it as just a game, an exploration, a social activity, plus, as I'm going into grad school, seeing it as a therapy tool, therapy session, a way to bond, and even an exploration that people can use in different characterization. How to even describe, because I guess up from the top, D&D. My own personal experience was that it's an elaborate, imaginative board game that you set up goals, you have different figures, you have a map with different styles of force and kingdoms, and you have several different people who set up these epic, crazy, powerful characters they play, and you have one person who would deem actions good or bad or epic fails. Like, this is from what I could think and remember from the past, what I initially knew about D&D. And of course, I was never in a family that was super religious or heavy-handed on believing crazy superstition. So even with the rumors and mumble-jumble of satanicness, it really didn't threaten me, didn't scare me. If more, I was like, people just don't understand. So it's not like a Ouija board where that seems to have legitimate darkness and potential evil attached to it compared to a person playing Dungeons and Dragons. For one, I really thought Dungeons and Dragons was specifically fantasy, medieval, gory adventure where you have to take these grand epic journeys, because now I am hearing so many different podcasts and YouTube series where people are impersonating Guy Fieri from Diners and Dash kind of food thing, or they're making taverns just to hang out or drink or be murder hobos. The entire reality and what I assume the story and the whole gameplay worked, absolutely different. It has a lot more freedom when you actually play the game. But even with that said, I did not realize how much quick math mattered that makes you look quick and able to do things on your toes. So that's one point where I'm feeling little rusty-dusty on. But I really have enjoyed dipping my toes into this game and trying it out with a group. Because especially, there was a huge point at the start of 2020 COVID time that I looked at a lot of solo playing D&D, because at that time, you couldn't really go places to people, and I really didn't want to talk to people online with Discord. So, that was a big thing, figuring that out. And of course, that never really panned out as a full-blown gameplay for doing solo. Mainly, that was just elaborate writing, creative techniques. Because, I just couldn't find a desire to play the game by myself and take random chances. Pretty much just me making elaborate backstory for a potential game I would DM in the future. But back on track, pretty much how I experienced D&D was kind of limited, but still open to the experience, but none of the people I circled with or hanged out with actually delved into the game, amateur or professional or even intermittently. Is that the word? I don't think that's the word. I'm doubting myself. Intermediate. Okay, I think we got this word down now. But anyways, I didn't see it firsthand, face to face. It was a lot of social media, different people talked about it, how Stranger Things, different TV shows brought it up, or Critical Role because Twitch got really popular in YouTube. And the time that I actually seriously put my feet into it besides solo DMing a story was when I discovered Ryutama. So really, only because of my love of anime and Japan and everything in the esque of anime style did I even discover that there was different styles of Dungeons and Dragons that were not just epic hardcore medieval scenarios rather than a peaceful Howl's Moving Castle NPC adventure that you could listen to the wind blow in the trees. Like, just to sum it up a little, because it took me a while to finally buy the manual, the script, the book of Ryutama to understand what the heck was this different style of Dungeons and Dragons, this roleplay. Because from there, we suddenly learned about all these other tabletop RPGs. Or even the fact that there is tabletop RPG games where instead of it being a video game where you're taking on a role of a hero or a powerful wizard or something, you're jotting down notes and voice acting at a table with 5 or 4 other friends and rolling a dice to see if you're going to stick the landing or not after you've decided to steal from a barrel or something. It's so crazy how both oblivious or even limited that I understood how creative you can be in the game. And in ways, I really wished I either took the time to learn this sooner or reached out to other people to play it. Because now, since I just started playing this back in February of 2023, I anticipate every time I get to have these sessions together with our DM and our 2 other playmates that are on the Ragabond adventuring crew that we have. Because, once I get into more of the details of what's happening in-game, the sessions, it's gonna get entertaining. Because for one, I thankfully wanted to keep this experience a big part of my memory. So, besides Session 1 or Session 0 that we began our D&D tabletop sessions in person, I decided to write down the adventure play by play. And then I started recording the rest of these sessions. And the shenanigans that have been captured forever. We now know what each person's feet pick cost is, what they think about popcorn at midnight, the dastardly things you can do with tree sap, and even the simple contemplations of is this the character talking, or is it the real life people actually debating on how to break the hearts of poor little heart-struck goblins on their quest to become epic? And of course, I'll probably like read back some of the recordings, because I haven't asked if I could post those recordings, but they're pretty much between our friends to hear it. That way they can get a giggle out of it. And even they're not the best quality compared to this, but at the moment, besides recording it, I really want to write it down in a book, which is pretty cool. I have a leather-bound journal that has a Lord of the Rings quote, which is really the most basic one of them all. Not all those who wander are lost. And at this point, I've gotten about 5 or 6 pages done. Because again, these are like 6 to 5 hour sessions where I am both trying to piece together what is part of the story and what is our side conversation, and making sure it's legible so I can go back and potentially type this or make it into an actual story. Because, you know, it would be kind of cool to be able to publish that or set it up in a cool blog style and relive the tale and use it as good material for when I want to DM in the future. It's all in the possibilities. Let's see, other than just my perspective had definitely changed on the reality of how you play the game, what you can play at it, and even simply how it feels to be around several other people with their own objectives both in-game and outside of the game, coming together and creating these elaborate characters to go on a quest we don't even know is going to unfold. That's the other part. This story doesn't have an end written. It's pretty much real life, just in a elaborately fancy world where you can purchase items for a couple thousand leaves instead of currency. From that, where do we go from there? Well, of course, the whole thing, D&D did just have a huge, popular scope on it, besides from Stranger Things, but when D&D the movie came out, which gave me a lot of material to work with as someone who's not fully dipped my toes into the world of D&D, the knowledge, the different books, the manuals, the different codes, the different ways you can play it, or even how you read the rules, and even how you use magic or different actions outside of the box. It's still newbie level for how long other people have been playing D&D. I mean, if you've ever seen YouTube, there's literally a YouTube video documenting someone who's done a full 20-plus year campaign of D&D in their basement with full-blown scale figures and everything. So, I mean, that's commitment. So, I'm not anywhere near that part, but for how much I've gotten to experience, honestly, that having 20 years experience or even having a story go on that long sounds like actually a beautiful dream to have. I'd love to do that. And at some point, maybe I can start putting something like that together. Who knows? The world has many ways of connecting technology and people across thousands and millions of miles away. And people are open to trying out new games, new ways of making friends and connecting. It's a very likely possibility. It just requires me to set a goal and plan and set it into action. There's people who are willing to support and want to join in. Why not? And besides that little explanation of where I stand, because I still pretty much at every session have to ask more basic level questions of, oh, do I roll again for this? Which dice do I use? How do I add this up if I have now a new modifier? Just kind of things like that, which I am so blessed and thankful and lucked out that I have a great DM who both really is passionate about the world of D&D, has lots of collectibles and all the books, and is a great teacher at explaining it and keeping a flow of conversation and entertainment, plus voice acting and details to the story that intrigues us but keeps us well informed, but lively and entertaining, like a well-seasoned professional tavern owner or something. Like, they have all the entertainment, all the drinks, the comforts, the music, everything that you would want to be welcome into after a long, weary day, and that you would still feel rejuvenated and wanting to communicate and bond and have community. That's kind of a way of saying thank you, my DM, for making D&D a worthwhile experience to continue forth with. Because, in the near future, which is less than a year, our campaign will have to end since they are departing cities, which already kind of sinks my heart, but they're on to good and happy things in their life, and they've opened a new door. So, it's a possibility and a lifetime that has burned brightly in my universe. Now, where to go from there? Because that's the backstory, the lore of my upbringing or my previous known existence of D&D and Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah, as I mentioned before, didn't really have friends who explored into that. And only when our newest manager came in, he would talk about it, both in the different aspects of the game, his own campaign that he was playing, the different characters he had modeled. He even showed us all the dice that he has, which apparently is being a dice goblin. That was kind of a cool reference, because literally he had enough dice to fill a bag to be like a lethal weapon. But my gosh, there's so many pretty looking dice. And if you go on any crafting indie site to buy from, like Etsy, there's a lot of little knickknacks and stuff that you could purchase for D&D. They have a crossbow, you can launch your dice. They have catapults, they have beautifully crafted paper stationery for your session notes, for different spell cards. It's crazy, both the time and effort and the detail that goes into it. Because that's just on the player side. Because of course, on the official side, there's a lot of digital work, there's a lot of integration for online play, for the solo play, and even just the amount of stuff you can add to your game on top of just the base rules. Of course, we could talk about that in a bit, because all that is a lot to discuss based on how I view it and how everyone else has talked about it. But obviously, a new manager came in, definitely talked about it, and had a lot of experience and time playing the game, being a character, creating artistic design, different backstories, tragedy, loss, hope, adventure, and even the math and figuring out the numbers, plotting out what their character would learn in the future. And already with my base of knowledge, it definitely brought out an excitement, because in a way, this is creative writing, improv, acting, and it combines it all with shenanigans that you could do with friends or people you've just met, and go on a story together. How fun is that? And from there, I guess since we built up our friendship bit by bit, then he presented the option of us and a few other people starting up a game, starting up a campaign together. And I'd never realized how much it would be a part of my day until we went through session 0, session 1, because now we're up to session 9, because we're going to have session 10 in a week and a half from current time. But still, we have to talk about, like I said, we have to kind of wrap up the story, which pretty much we have to do it in 10 sessions or less, because we meet like every 2 weeks if we can. So we only have a few months left before that totally changes. And of course, that makes me have to realize, do I want to find another DM group? Or would I want to tackle the task of becoming a DM and seeing if our post-party members would like to continue on another journey? It's an option. I mean, I live in a place that actually has a lot of D&D materials on hand, and even there is the option of participating in an entirely new group at a game shop too. I have to think about that, because it definitely lightens up my week, and it's a fun experiment in what you can push your imagination to. My opinions before starting it, first dipping my toes into D&D, and even trying out solo, because all this pretty much start of COVID, so after 2020, but essentially before that time, it really wasn't mainstream, in my face, anywhere. Like, even in my media, my literature, where I would shop, it just wasn't in my view. I mean, in a way, it is because of the lockdown that it came to light, which is good. Yes, terrible that it came out in that way, but good that it became mainstream, just in the way of anime became much more mainstream over these really past 5 to 6 years I have viewed personally. Of course, it's had a bit more time to develop that, because like One Piece, finishing of Naruto, Bleach, new episodes coming out of things, new types of show, movies, just to give that, or explanation, something. Starting into this group, I mean, that could be the next way to go about this. My idea, my thoughts, because for me, I'm the only girl currently in my D&D group, which, if you've been on forums online, that can be good or bad, depending on who you're playing with, who you interact with, and that's gonna be its own part, being identified female playing in this field. But I'm an outlier in this. I don't have bad experiences in this realm. All I've experienced is other people's horror stories talking about it. So I can't give any personal anecdotes of what's happened, because my experience has been laughable, funny, comfortable, and inviting in every aspect with no ill will. It's kind of crazy. But again, the people who have made the group and have me join, we already had an established good friendship and that we could banter with each other. It wasn't any weird strangers. Because, like, even our third member who's entered into our group, he is hilarious, laughable, and has a flair of style to playing the game, and has a nice digital setup of how he produces his characters and how he sets or preps his magic, since he's more magic based. And yeah, I'm lucky in that regard. Everyone has been great. And the times I've actually gone to game stores or D&D type places to purchase items, people have been friendly and welcoming and no shape, way, or form uncomfortable. And even there was even someone who was like, hey, if you want to come play a certain day of the week, here's the information. So, that's a really short tidbit on that part. But still, there is an underbelly of darkness when you have a big hobby with different people. So this got cut quite a bit. But I have a bit more material to work with, and we can continue forth and chat about D&D and where I go from here. 'Cause I've honestly really enjoyed it. It makes my weekday a much more fulfilling, much more creative time to spend both with my session members and even what I myself can explore and wonder about in creating and developing my character, their adventure, their backstory, the different ways I can explore the game and push boundaries or find new actions to take. And now, we're at 9 sessions currently. We just finished up quite a stressful battle in our journey so far. Which, I mean, maybe to bring you up to speed would be the smartest way to explain it, because I have discovered in D&D, I am a hoarder of words, a goblin of the recording, the keeper of the noise. Because besides our first session, I made it my job, my duty, my honor to record our games. That way, I myself could continue forth and write out our stories, both in my character's perspective, in a journey log or notes or letters, and even for the sake of me to learn if I'm playing the game correctly. If I have questions, I can go back to it and detail it. Here, how to explain it, because I think first and foremost I need my journal. Alrighty, we have both my recollections, my log, my session, playback story journal, and my journal that I play D&D sessions with. They both come in handy for both context, lore, and all the math that is implied with what's my character's even powerful to even do in session. Now, currently this is my first D&D session, so maybe I'm doing things extra, maybe I'm not detailing enough, or I'm simply playing the game as I'm feeling fit to. So, I have this lovely journal that's pastel, purple, lavender, whichever your artistic eye appreciates more. But I have a lawful, neutral, Horizon Walker Ranger as my character type, class, race. Well, I mean, the race being half orc. And by their outstanding name, I decided to go with Topeka Losico. For one, a great obsession with the Barbie doll stop motion series that's online. I cannot remember it, but pretty much if you've ever looked at stop animations of a series on YouTube, maybe I'll talk about another time, but anyways. Topeka Losico is a lawful neutral character and a urchin background as well. And essentially, she lost her parents when she was still young in life, given that they were running from a cult that both wanted them to work for them and they did not want to participate in it. And given that she was on the run with her parents and then disappearing, left this giant gaping question of, did they die? Are they alive? Did the cult find them? Or did they simply abandon her as well? That notion has come to the forefront of her mind in these more later years of her life. Because at this point, I've put my character at 29. Well, I think it was 31. I put my character's canonical age. But of course, I will need to check my notes. But anyways, my character abandoned having to live the life of poor, starving on the streets, but with some advantages, like the only reason my character became a ranger, a horizon walker, is because of their urchin background, given that they try to steal from their future mentor, Jafar. Now, not the smartest thing to try, knowing that by this time she had been an urchin for a while, but hunger, just having a roof over your head, desperate times. But with that blumbling error, Jafar, her mentor, took her in and started to train Topeka to become a horizon walker, the protector, the gatekeepers of the portals of the age of monsters. And, I guess I should explain this as well. Our D&D sessions are taking place in the world of Eberron, so that is why specifically my character's a horizon walker and not just a beast hunter or animal one or gloomstalker, but I just was really fascinated by the whole portals, the other world, this secret ancient clan of people who want to protect, and the whole thing that there's this great and powerful black dragon that bestowed people, the gatekeepers, the horizon walkers, to protect the world. So that's just a little start to my character and where this story is going to lead us. Now, being that I chose to pick lawful neutral, I didn't feel pulled to have a chaotic character. I didn't want to be evil. I do want to help. But again, I wanted my character to look at the world as an observer rather than a bleeding heart. I don't want the fate of the world being wax and waned on poetry. I wanted a character that has soldiered on, but clearly is out of touch with help and the real questions that are burning in the back of their head. And of course, given my character being lawful neutral and a horizon walker at the same time, actually has brought about some conflict and unease or hesitation on my character's actions or how I interact with our party members. Though, as well, we have stumbled upon a new complication in the newest session because of a particular wand that I picked up off of a enemy that was a floating skull at one point. And now my character holds my secrets, holds my thoughts to myself that I mistrust or I don't feel like informing anyone else about pertinent, important, vital information that could make or break or keep someone alive. So far, I've only seen a minor effect of this, given I could have provided a name to somebody or suggested a different solution. So in a way, my character has become muted on sharing my thoughts, but I could perhaps find a way to still provide information, but maybe in riddles or in a way that will take more time for them to figure out. So I'm still figuring out exactly how I want to proceed with this characterization now, because as our DM has explained, unless this magical item is destroyed, I am forever cursed with this. And the other problem is I can't tell my other party members about said wand or what the curse is. And of course, if you've ever seen Ella Enchanted with Anne Hathaway, I'm pretty much under the same generalized spell that at the beginning of the movie, the mother told her daughter she would never tell anyone about this obedience curse that she's under. So I've essentially screwed the pooch on this, and maybe someone will be able to magically reveal this information at some point. Or of course, we do have another party member who can read thoughts, because, well, they have no reason to read my thoughts for that purpose. Unless, of course, they think I'm lying, which will cause a lot of problems unless they successfully roll to see my thoughts. But it could be bad, could be good. I might end up having to desert the party. Who knows, in the long run. Now, besides my character, their reasons. Oh, of course, I've decided to put in that they have allergies, because I know for the limited knowledge I do have in D&D that there is spores or pollen, such things, and just daily activities where you could roll and see if you have blindness or confusion or you're dizzy or dazed. I just thought it would be an interesting little thing to throw in there. Though at this point I've not seen it actively used, but still, I like to add it as their flaw. My character is a fiend, or a collector, a hunter of shiny rocks, which at the beginning of the game, I was able to pick up quite the nice piece of mica, which in turn, later down the line, when we were going to get just eliminated by this strong enemy, I was able to use it as a weapon. Though it did break, but I still have 2 halves of that mica, so it's a good reminder of the troubles and tribulations we've already stumbled into. Not entirely accidentally, but more so bad choices. And Of course, by what I was talking about earlier, being a Horizon Walker and my position in the alignments, my character with maybe strong, well, not strong, it's like do or die, that I would give up on life if I break these oaths. That essentially I refuse any kind of magical attack or attacks that poison, disease, or cause madness, insanity in a character, even if they're evil, bad, about to destroy the world even. Which is kind of difficult because my character's oath as well to the gatekeepers, to the Horizon Walkers, is to protect the world, the greater good, which means along the lines I've let a few people perish accidentally and kind of nonchalantly as well. But in my possession currently, my character holds a very rare and powerful dagger that can poison. But given my stipulations, my oath, I will not allow myself to use this. But of course, one of my other party members, who seems to lean on the chaotic evil side, consistently asks for this knife, though I have yet to give them the knife because of a varying amount of reasons as well. I have used it as a bargaining chip, a way to dangle it in front of them in order for them to help. And I am wondering why they have yet to try to steal it, or forcefully take it from me. But again, they are working with us as a party member, so I do see their reason not to absolutely decimate me for a single blade. And of course, maybe in due time, they may actually acquire it by good behavior. Though as well, in our second most recent session, I did have a moment of contemplation when my character was at 2 HP of actually using this dagger. Because one of our party members was down. They were saving throws. And another member was draining out their magic. And I actually had to think, would I cause my character to break and actually destroy their oath and use this blade? Because of the fact of, could I just sacrifice my character for the greater good? And I had this big contemplation. In my recording, I can hear myself wondering about this aloud. And somehow, the dice were listening, and I was able to combine forces with our magic user, and we prevailed. Though, of course, we don't know if that enemy's actually KO'd, or if they're coming back for us. But still, for the moment, my character has escaped from death, but is left with a new, pondering thought of self-sacrifice for even the worst kind of party member. So, that's really just the snippets, the tidbits of how our sessions have gone, my character. Because of course I could talk a whole lot more about their backstory, the details, but there's so much more to go about. How our story begins, our different characters, and of course we've had a party member die during the game. That was a big deal. Didn't realize that was going to happen. But we'll talk about Topeka another time. But now, to our quest in Eberron. Alrighty-o. So, our session begins with me
2 other players and 1 DM in the world set in Eberron, a steampunk magical kind of world that doesn't have gods that are directly affecting the world. Here we have essentially everyone at a new level of D&D playing, besides our DM who's actively playing, and the rest of us with varying different knowledge and expertise and an idea for what our character will become. And here we set out to create characters that would stumble upon each other after a grand, crashing night at a tavern in looks of some more thirst to quench. And we all came about discovering some hearsay of rainbow wine that is in a neighboring town called Windshire, which of course, here in the late hours of night, already inebriated and meeting with new people, we all decide to travel together to this Windshire for this excellent rainbow wine that would quench the maybe alcoholic side of us. Who knows? We all perhaps need therapy. But I, Topeka Lasico, a half-orc ranger horizon walker, our Calstar Torakai, I'm trying to remember his official title. Kalashtar Torakai Hareth, which apparently, like in Eberron, you have these like dream demon kind of things that live like in your brain, but you can have like a second form that comes out like nightmares. It sounds pretty interesting as we learn more about this character, and clearly at the start of the games, a lot of extra health and tanky kind of character, so it helped us a lot in enemy combat. And finally, we have our elf, our sorcerer, reigning from the House Fiarin, the Mark of Shadows. Again, I'm not very experienced with how to say all this, so I beg your pardon. But essentially the house where the bards, the actors, the entertainment, but lo and behold, they are actually a spy and assassin network. So, already off the bat, we have several different targets placed upon each of our characters. Oh, balls, I didn't even say your name. I'm sorry. Our third character's Irvin. He's a sorcerer. He reigns from the House of Shadow Mark. He is marked, and he's actually quite powerful and has the flair for style, which is the point I will preface. Sadly, Irvin is the one who has passed on in this game. Not entirely because the whole fact of revivify, or that we could find healers at, I think, House Vidalis, I believe it is, that have the healing. But if I'm wrong, oops on my part. But now for the fact of, these are our characters, and I said we all have marks on us. Given that I, Topeka Lasico, a half-orc, and Horizon Walker, trying to become a gatekeeper, I have monsters to deal with. I have my own family history to deal with, and as well my own path to discovering the people who are trying to raise up, Kyber? Yeah, Kyber the dragon. And then we have our Kalashtar, very much living in a world that is prejudiced against them since they can read minds. They're linked with these very scary looking creatures, and Irvin being a part of an assassin house, though he is a exiled one. But of course, we'll explain more in depth of how a demise happens later on, because now we will jump back to the start, since now we have some names to faces for our characters and our destined meeting about a rainbow wine in the late hours of the night, and how our vagabond set of characters decide to go about their adventure together. Session 1. Topeka, in a tavern, meets a pair of fellows on the way out of the building, sadly blasted from the cheery drinks and talk of rainbow wine. Our fellow members all band together with these whispering talks of this elusive drink, so deep, rich, and truly blastastic. They decide, with drinks already in hand, to travel to Windmere, which at this point is 6 hours away from the tavern. Here, arriving at the outskirts past the tavern into the town with the growing light of dawn appearing and the sounds of screams. How curious, given the late hour, and given our characters are a bit blasted, time has escaped them. So, Topeka, with some questions at hand at the alarming visual cues occurring, races ahead to get some answers. And on sight, there's a town on fire, which then explains the light that was growing in the distance. But people all around are looting the fiery place. Alarmed, yet they themselves, the looters, continue on looting. So, Torakai somehow is able to read thoughts, which, without knowing what kind of creature, being Torakai is, Topeka's on high alert for that, unless of course this is an aberrant character, and being a Horizon Walker is not in particularly fond of such things. But still, Torakai reads a mind, but yet there is nothing but emptiness in this thoughtless brain. And so, Topeka, the ranger that she is, decides to shoot an arrow, which entirely misses the mark, but it does alert most of the culty-looking dressed looters to back off and go back into the fiery town, but it leaves us with 3 of them, just bleakly alert of us. And so, these actions of failing to hit my mark lead my character becoming stabbed in the gut. Not bleeding badly, but a wounded ego. So, both with the new company of Torakai and Irvin and Topeka at hand, we are set to battle. I swear under my breath, and I try to make my way backwards so the other 2 can take the front lines. Not the best at hand-to-hand combat quite yet. And Irvin comes to my aid. The suspicious, magical, and very sing-song kind of way, he heals me up a bit. Though surprising he was able to sneak over with such grace. almost invisible. Though, as he snicked back to me, he could see there was a door in the shadows. But of course, that was kept to Irvin for a bit, as I needed to take some revenge against these culty looters, and Torakai backed me up with some strength on hand. And no more stabs for me, and all three are taken out quickly. But now there's a moment of wonder on how to save this town, why the town's on fire, why it's being looted, and of course, where the heck the rainbow wine is. And that's just the start of first session, which in actual reality was probably like 30 minutes to an hour just to proceed up to that point. Because of course we had character creation and the battle to set up with the initiation and everything.
Now, that's everything on my side of things, the journey, the adventure, what we're building up to, because in actuality, we're supposed to be in the end game of our journey, because in reality, we have until the start of October for this campaign to finish, and it's August. It's the middle of August right now, so you see, each game matters. Or the fact we could just do the whole they lived happily ever after with leaving the story ambiguous. Because at this moment, we did have an excellent pull from the deck of many things, and I got a killer storm bow. Other companion got a castle, essentially. So that's part of the journey of us traveling there so we can see it and battle the monsters. And our last companion, very funny, since this character has been like notoriously the rich one, the one with all the gems and everything. They end up getting like this ridiculous amount of extra gems as well. So we all fittingly picked good cards for this deck of many things. But from there, the true quest, the main quest, we're kind of wandering off from it. But hey, in a little bit, maybe we'll have some more juicy news on that front. But of course, like when I talked about anime, we have to talk about the overwhelming, the ever-present world of merch in the world of D&D. That the amount of people that both are profiting off of this creative DIY kind of game, but even what new ideas are coming forth. Because, like, literally, there's tea and mugs and beautiful sets of different dice that official companies have never decided to make. Like earlier, I was freaking talking about that crossbow you could put your dice in to launch them, which is freaking cool and very fitting if your character is a assassin, a rogue, or a ranger type, and you just blast out some dice with a crossbow. And of course, there's different, like, metalworks, leatherworkers, many different 3D printers getting to express their hobby as both profit and a passion. Because honestly, right now I'm like literally scrolling pages of different things you could purchase. I mean, there's cheese-themed dice. There's even Hawaiian shirts that have D&D little dice on them. Spell cards, different steampunk pocket watches, very cute kawaii-looking stuff. Swords, daggers, different screens you could use that are custom with copper and metal. You've got even some stuff that's very cute that you could introduce young middle school players and elementary kids to start testing their hand at it and seeing if they like the imagination, the theater production. There's even welcome to, like, the birth thing. What is it? Gift, baby shower things, yes. And of course, it does bring up the whole thing of, hey, there's a lot of people who make terrain and different landscape objects, but then realizing how priced high they are, there's more and more people coming out with either 3D hacks, DIY things, or even bundles that you can buy from different shops online or in person if you go to markets. So it's becoming much more accessible beyond the very enthusiastic hobbyist. Now someone who maybe wants to test their hand on D&D have a lot of online custom PNGs or Photoshop pieces they can use to create the perfect game for their story. Here we go to explain it. So again, there's another part to this whole bit of merch in D&D where we have Roll20, we have Discord, we have online PowerPoint presentations, any virtual way you can play the game if either distance or COVID or accessibility. There's ways to play the game and make it look nice, where you can have towers and effects and music. Oh, there's another one. Oh my goodness, what is it called? Because I got it through Steam before, didn't I? The multiverse D&D, that you could set up a true D&D adventure. It has your math, the rolling the dice on there, the different character customization, the portals, and you can set it that actions occur on the map. So beyond having an in-person physical game, and in the world, because of course a lot of these do have options for paid to play, where you have digital copies of the D&D books, or you have sets of different customized art or music you can buy and purchase on the side. And of course, a lot of the stuff is accessible either because you have your DM pay for it, so you're all able to access it in this shared portal, or someone's putting on their pirate hat and giving you the booty. And even the options of you design it yourself and you import these different artworks or graphics into the server so you can use it. But again, the whole thing of D&D, there's many different ways to play it. And yes, there's a lot of merch and a lot of goodies you can add on to it, but at the end of the day, really? Piece of paper, a pencil, maybe a pen if you want to be a little fancy, and a way to either roll the dice to have the right numbers, or a virtual dice, because most of these you can buy or purchase as a free app. So you can go super lavish, or you can go for the base value and just have a wealth of imagination to begin. So I do appreciate that D&D has allowed for this huge expansion into the things you can acquire for your game, but still, it is nice that you don't have to feel rushed and pushed to have all the stuff to enjoy it. Because even the slew of YouTube videos that have giant playlists of music to add to the ambiance entirely for free. Just watch out when the ads come in, or it breaks your immersion. Well, of course we could talk about the D&D movie, because that still goes into the realm of merch, because I mean, buying movie tickets, buying any posters or any music that came of it or costumes, because again, Halloween is going to come up and it'll still be relevant enough to dress up as your favorite character from it. But it wasn't too difficult to see the D&D movie. Of course, it's one of the movies that had, was it a push or early access to be streamed? Even though this is the year more the movies are pushing back to be seen in the theaters instead of at home. Because I know, what was it? The Suicide Squad, the Harley Quinn one. That was one of the last ones that were major in-box theater. And D&D, Super Mario, they're kind of the ones that pushed it back from the digital accessibility into movie house again. But I get it. It's a business. They don't want it to die. So they're gonna figure out ways in order to incentivize people to see it at the theater. Because when the D&D movie started for me, they had the full cast, like for a weird minute or a half, talking about the movie. But honestly, it just kind of seemed like the actors who were talking on stage seemed like they were tired or they didn't really want to be there. I don't know, like it's just how that weird little clip came about felt like they kind of forced that onto the screen so you could see the characters before the movie started, and then they didn't cut it off correctly, so you're kind of staring at the screen and they weren't talking anymore. So maybe that was a rushed idea before they presented the movie. I don't know. Like, if anyone else saw the same clip, do let me know, because it was kind of felt like someone was doing a candid camera and they failed to cut it properly. But from there, the movie itself, fucking amazing. I laughed, I had a good cry, and I felt a nice, coming of age, magic, redeeming themselves as parents and as people, and you got to see the bad guys taken care of. That is the perfect way to go about it. Sure, the danger or the level of wit or comedy was within the realm of PG-13, so it wasn't super scary or dark, but it was nearly a family-friendly, wholesome movie to watch where you got to see shenanigans happen and people band together to save the day. I do have to say, it would have been cool to see if they had rolled dice at any point to kind of break that immersion, especially if someone got a fail or a natural 20. Like, just a little tidbit that would have maybe called to the core of the game. But still, fantasy world. Would love to see another movie into that realm, or like a short 12-episode TV series that expands upon their story with another adventure. I would be down for that.
And of course, we must bring up something that has both been brought to light and even that has been in the works for quite a while. A game that has stirred quite the positive review, and that it's been in early access for quite a few years, so people have been able to test out mechanics and see how the graphics are and even see what kind of choices they want to make. Baldur's Gate 3, which pretty much party-based RPG in the universe of Dungeons and Dragons. You get your own customizable character, you have choices to make, dice rolls that roll, and a very expansive story to explore as you have both lore, characters, a ticking time clock, and simply a big game to explore for both the power,
magic and sense of adventure to discover, which for some maybe is not their cup of tea. But for me, I absolutely love video games. I love the RPG element, and plus, since I'm entering into the world of D&D, having a game that uses those elements and I get to play in an actual game setting and seeing how my choices in defense and magic changes the tide of the story, I'm hooked. I'm excited. And even I did not even question the $60 price point it's on. Like, it looks so much fun, and I've already spammed into the early access in the very start of the tutorial area, and I'm having fun seeing already you can kind of push some of the characters' buttons. You get to explore the different abilities your character has at the start, the different mechanics of, like, you can shove people, you can throw stuff, and I really need to play more. I'm hooked already. So definitely something in the D&D world that will integrate a lot more people into it who may not have real IRL or online people they can play in person with. This way, you get to experience D&D in a video game setting rather than hanging out with your friends. Who knows, because even there's the multiplayer mode. I've yet to try that yet. So once we do that, I'll have more opinions. Let's see. It has graphics that are labeled as something a little bit higher, but I mean, the graphics card that I'm already using has not seen anything hurt too badly. So it's pretty accessible to play. Plus, I've yet to see microtransactions, so that is exciting that they're not trying to push extra charges above the $60. Huge thing. This game clearly is being made with love to play it. They're not exploiting people to buy into it early. They're just letting them get to try it and experience what they want to try. Sure, of course, there's going to be quite a few people who stream this game who are just going to go into it being murder hobos, or they're going to play and be the knightly paladin who will save the day. And I do appreciate that even in all the talks of the game, they have made romance not point and click, that you have to learn about your characters, that you get underneath their skin truly. So it feels genuine and a real experience of someone else in a dangerous situation may fall in love and they may not. They may become your enemy if you're not careful with your choices. And it's reality. So obviously, excited about the game, a reason to have another type of way to play D&D with our friends, or just for recording sake and even testing out the limits and the barriers that are presented in the game. Plus, if they add more stuff down the line, any DLC, extra characters or companions you can woo or battle, and just it opens up a slew of more creative design and developers to create games of this type. Because yes, people like a fantasy game that they can battle and talk to digital beings, but even the fact of integrating different games into a system, like setting up a interactive time-based clue game like the movie, where as you progress further and further trying to figure out the mystery, more people end up dying if you're not going to be Sherlock Holmes and figure out the mystery. Taking ideas from VR chat and adding a spooky element of different ghost games, Dead by Daylight being integrated into a full-blown team-based game rather than a hide-and-seek, get the generators running. There's options to expand upon multiple different types or ideas. Having Baldur's Gate, I mean, just alone, opening up the character customization brings back The Sims for me. That you can just sit there and you're looking at so many different shades of colors, different hair types, the different textures that they give you off the bat. I mean, I'm gonna be amazed when we have the mods come out for this. Because, I mean, any game out there, there is a huge plethora of people who use the Steam Workshop to give voiceovers, color changes, color palettes. I mean, they even give an option where you can have different censorships, because sometimes games are a little too rough. Like, I'm talking about you, Fear and Hunger. Sometimes I don't want to see the consequences of my coin flip toss. Please. Which, I mean, of course, yeah, I mean, Fear and Hunger is in the general sense of Dungeons and Dragons, just with a bit more disturbances being presented up front without any warning. Definitely need to talk about that in a moment, but still, character customization. They give you the sync and more. But sure, they could add a bit more sliders for things, but it looks really good. And plus, opening up it again after early access, they gave you an option that you could base your character off the other companions. I was like, oh, so you could make it almost like their opposite, their duo, a doppelganger, or even you can twist the character and make it so you look or sound or have the same class, but you're entirely different alignment. So it'd be fun to see that play in the cinematics too. Because, I mean, the voice acting and how they move the character models, so far I feel it's lively, it's not stiff, and that things are occurring almost from the player's eyes watching this and being in a movie, but being in a not quite first-person perspective, because, I mean, you still get to see yourself, which is appreciated because, I mean, how much time I've put in for the customization. I want to see my character too. Which is even kind of crazy how much you could mess with everything that's underneath your clothes as well. Sure, it was more limited, but still, there's an option for that. Just like how Cyberpunk had it, but you didn't really get to appreciate your hard work and effort. But already in Baldur's Gate, besides getting to make the perfect kind of character, you get to delve into all the statistics, the math, and the probability of what your stats should be. Because yes, you can make your base character have their race, their traits, different perks that happen because of such and such. And then you have to put your trust in the rolls, which is scary because yes, you can make a great balanced stat sheet, but some of the rolls, they have some high difficulty. And I mean, in the beginning, there was one that was just a 2 difficulty. So I mean, unless you have terrible roll skills, it was a shoo-in to successfully roll that one. I was forgetting the way to word that a moment. Give my brain a second. But here, I think that's all I can talk about on Baldur's Gate without spoiling or maybe discouraging anyone from playing it, because it's a new game. That is a thing. For those who don't play early access, it's only just released, and I want someone else to enjoy the adventure and the wonder of opening up the first time and not been given a splur of details. There should be some excitement and surprise. But other than that, of course, I mentioned Fear and Hunger. in a way, it is D&D, but it is a whole lot of brutal disadvantage, if anything. Because, yeah, you get a coin toss during this game, but most of the time, that coin toss, even though it should feel 50-50, it feels like F you and F you. You might have a 1% chance of getting the roll that you need. Oh, because especially if you end up in an enemy fight and you are not prepared for it. Oh. But yes, for those who don't know, Fear and Hunger came about as a more popular title given Twitch unearthed it again. More mods came out so people can play it without being bombarded by all the dicks that are in the game and the titties and the bloody horror that occurs on penalty or just for the sake of plot. Now, Fear and Hunger is on Steam. It's been out since basically right before COVID began, so people have had quite a few years to work on it, which you do need, because when you first start the game, it doesn't give you shit. It tells you, hey, make your character, read its dialogue. Oh, you picked this? Well, I guess you have this phobia. Drop in the game. And even the very start of the game penalize you for dawdling about thinking, oh, gotta grab equipment, gotta grab something. And you have to rush in, and if you're not careful, you can already try to battle a very strong enemy or be decimated and have to start up the game once more. Which is kind of crazy because even the game has in it an internal timer for another party member that can occur, which I am just still baffled at the timer, because sure, I've now played it over 12 or 15 times of the beginning area and getting better and better of understanding the mechanics of fight and flight, where to go, what not to step on and get tetanus from freaking random planks on the floor. And even just the fact of, do you eat now or do you heal? It's a whole lot of different scales you're working with. And especially if you try to bring more people into your party, you have to worry about feeding them. Worrying about if they're going to get infected, if they're going to slowly die and ruin your entire plan because you've yet to save at another bed. Because the coin toss to save as well. And yes, I rant about this, but this game is just one of those games that have definitely been unearthed for being brutal, both in its gameplay, game story, but even for the fact of you're going to have to play it like Dark Souls. You have to play this with the anticipation of every second you're going to fail, and you're going to have to backtrack to the start with no inventory yet again. But I do appreciate that it leaves so much of the work up to you to figure out rather than hold your hand with tutorials. Because there's that duality in video game world and duality in any type of hands-on material. Some people absolutely want tutorial after tutorial stuffed down, and others who want simply to run around freely and see what the consequences are. And of course that is still in the realm of D&D, because some things you want to simply find out firsthand, that you want to take a risk that your character may roll a natural one and you might have to go back to character creation, or simply you find a way to figure out the game as you're going with the flow. There's some things, of course, I've asked to death in questions during the game, and there's some things that I've absolutely raged at from not asking a question, both in exploring D&D and exploring Fear and Hunger. It's a matter of, these are decisions you made. You came to the fork in the road, and you either stopped a moment or you barreled right ahead. Just like in my character little story I did before, my character being a ranger, I made the crazy decision in the first session to run up to an enemy, not even aware if they had a weapon, and shoot an arrow, entirely miss them, and end up getting stabbed for it. Which is actually pretty exciting to understand that is an action that will occur when you fight. Or the fact of when you get creative with your choices, you do give the DM new things to use against you or to use with other NPCs down the line. It's a good way to exchange information but not really think on the whole butterfly effect of, hey, you've made this decision and now everyone else knows about this type of idea you have. But still, it's a nice way to see how different types of games, and even the whole basic thing of testing out ideas, occur. Now, moving away from Fear and Hunger, because again, it's more of a dungeon crawler, like Zanki Zero, and some other games, like maybe Entria Odyssey, unless that's more of a map-making dungeon crawler. But anyways, that was my little tidbit on that part. Because from there, I mean, you can pull Diablo into the D&D world, because for one, you have a plethora of side quests to create and to discover, and even how you go about time missions or missions you need to save people. It does change the outcome of that said quest, reward, or story. You either succeed at it, you have to start back, your equipment's damaged, or you may learn some more lore that goes on in the world, the twisted things that the people there do, or you might learn of a new challenging enemy to take on. There's risk and reward in everything you do. And yes, it's more fast-paced action where you're slamming keys to continuously produce more magic or arrows or whatnot, or druid magic. But I really enjoy it. These different facets of roleplay that are coming out that I'm discovering because of opening the door to exploring what even is D&D. The different books, the different, different TikToks that are there. Someone who does a full-on performance of a tavern owner who talks to you, gives you comfort, or maybe says a silly line. I mean, even the presentation of that content can relax you or give you ideas of how to maybe write a campaign or present a new twist in your stories. Even the wonder of other questions you can ask NPCs to break from the standard mold of, oh, I go in, get a drink, have a bar fight, pickpocket someone, or break someone's dreams. No, you can actually look at the board for a quest, or maybe seduce some mysterious hooded man in the corner, and you might explore a whole new path to journey on. It's options. But from there, what else could I talk about D&D? Because the big thing is, it's still a work in progress, something I'm still figuring out, because I only own 2 sets of the manual books. Most of the other information I'm asking from my DM themselves, or even looking up online, or discovering when I'm being dazzled by online stationary design, which really, that is a really fun perk of doing D&D as DIY style rather than the online version, because I was able to purchase a binder, get paper and do some arts and crafts to design each page and how I want to present my character's information and what they represent, the turmoil or the rusticness of their upbringing, or even a simple color palette to present maybe an overall theme I want to go with them? I don't know. It just works for the type of person I am. Scrapbooking when I was younger, definitely a highlight in my day-to-day with photos. And now, I get to do that kind of thing again as an adult with D&D. And I do hope I get to continue this with another campaign afterwards, or even get to the point that I do get to present a campaign. And if I can't find a party, it would be pretty exciting to present it as a solo play game, because I could always set it up as a ASMR roleplay story, or I can add elements of chance and luck into it and spill my story into different types of plots. Man, I could make a whole book out of that. But yeah, things are happening in my adventures of real life roleplay. But now I must decide how I want to play Baldur's Gate. Will I play it as my in-game character, Talo Lasico? Or will I design an entirely new person and blend forth a new personality and persona for them? I'm very excited for how this is gonna go. But I think that'll come to the end of our, let's say, our part 1 of D&D as the beginner, the newbie, the prologue to this whole new type of activity and hobby I'm pursuing now. So then there's the question, after such a long wait, what will be the next podcast episode about? Of course, we can go into IRL with my counseling work that I'm beginning. We could go into politics. We could go into more different types of games. Retro, new style, different types of stories to write. Really going to have to debate on this, because all the other ones were definitely topics I had a well of knowledge I wanted to expend upon. I mean, ooh, that would be actually a good one. I mean, conversations about the start of streaming, Twitch, Kick, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, social media. I mean, social media is one part. The other part, doing a live in-person persona of me as my SelphyClark online. Yeah, that would actually be a good one to talk about. I mean, online, it changes how you look at the world and what you talk about. I like that. Okay, I'm gonna think about that for a bit, because obviously, this podcast got such a long vacation break. But hey, we have more ideas to come. So, for the next time of XP for Heal, have a good day, have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.